The first time I heard my sister tell someone I was jealous of her, I laughed. Not because it was funny, because it was so absurd that I genuinely thought she was joking. She wasn't. I was standing in my mother's kitchen on a Sunday afternoon, rinsing dishes after dinner, when I heard her voice drift in from the living room. "You know how she is," my sister Ashley said. "She's always been competitive. Ever since my career took off, she's had a hard time being happy for me." There was a sympathetic murmur from one of my aunts. I froze. The water continued running over my hands. Competitive? Jealous? My first instinct was to walk into the room and correct her. But then I stopped. Because how do you explain a truth that sounds unbelievable? How do you tell people that the woman they admire for her glamorous lifestyle couldn't actually afford it? How do you reveal that every month, on the first day, you quietly transferred $1,200 into her account so she wouldn't get evicted? So I stayed silent. And that silence became one of the biggest mistakes of my life. Ashley and I grew up in a small town where appearances mattered more than people admitted. We were only 2 years apart. She was the outgoing one. I was the quiet one. She could walk into a room and become the centre of attention without trying. I preferred books, routines, and staying out of the spotlight. Growing up, people constantly compared us. Ashley is such a star. Ashley is going places. Ashley has so much confidence. Nobody meant harm by it. But after hearing it for 20 years, you start to understand your role in the family story. Ashley was the dreamer. I was the dependable one. Ashley chased excitement. I managed consequences. Back then, it didn't bother me. At least not much. I loved my sister. And despite our differences, I thought she loved me too. After college, our paths separated. I got a stable job in financial operations. Nothing glamorous. Nothing anyone bragged about at parties. But it paid well. I budgeted carefully, saved aggressively, built an emergency fund, bought a modest townhouse. Ashley moved to a major city. Within months her social media exploded. Designer outfits, luxury restaurants, rooftop parties, weekend trips, photos overlooking skylines. People in our family couldn't stop talking about her. She's living the dream. Look how successful she is. She's doing amazing. I remember staring at one photo showing her sipping champagne beside an infinity pool. My mother leaned over and smiled. "Your sister has really made it." I smiled back. "Looks like she's having fun." What I didn't know was that 3 days earlier, Ashley had called me crying. I don't know what to do. Her voice shook through the phone. I got laid off. I sat up immediately. What happened? They downsized. How much do you have saved? Silence. The silence told me everything. Ashley? I don't really have savings. My stomach sank. She lived in one of the most expensive cities in the country. Her rent alone was nearly $3,000 a month. How long can you cover expenses? Another pause. A couple weeks. I closed my eyes. She was 29 years old. Smart, talented, capable, but she'd spent years maintaining an image she couldn't actually afford. A few days later we met for coffee. She looked exhausted. The confident social media version of Ashley was gone. In her place was my frightened little sister. "I don't want Mum and Dad to know." I nodded. I figured. They'll think I failed. "You lost a job. It feels like failure." I stared at her for a moment. Then I asked the question that changed everything. "How much do you need?" Tears immediately filled her eyes. "I can't ask you that." "You didn't." She looked away. "I just need some time." I pulled out my phone. "How much is your rent?" That was the beginning. What started as temporary help became a monthly arrangement. $1,200. Every month. Without fail. Sometimes more. Never less. She found freelance work. Then contract jobs. Then another full-time position. But somehow there was always a gap. Always another emergency. Always another reason. "I'll pay you back. Things are tight right now. Just a few more months." I believed her. Because she was my sister. And because helping her genuinely felt like the right thing to do. The strange thing about supporting someone financially is that eventually it becomes invisible. At first they're grateful, deeply grateful. Then they adjust. Then they normalize it. Then they forget. Not maliciously, not consciously. It simply becomes part of reality. Like electricity. Like running water. Like oxygen. People stop noticing what keeps everything functioning. I think Ashley stopped noticing too. 3 years passed. 3 years, 36 months, over $43,000. I never calculated the total until much later. If I had, maybe I would have stopped sooner. Meanwhile, Ashley's public image kept growing. Promotions, vacations, networking events, new furniture, fashionable apartments, beautiful photographs. The comments underneath her posts were always the same. Goals, inspiring, living your best life. And gradually a new narrative emerged within our family. Ashley was thriving. I was, ordinary, at holiday dinners relatives would ask about her exciting life. Then they'd turn to me. Still working the same job? Still living in the same house? Still single? Still boring? Nobody used those exact words. But I heard them anyway. Then came the family reunion. The moment everything started unravelling. I arrived late, after work. As soon as I walked in, I sensed something was off. Conversation stopped briefly. People looked away. A few smiles felt forced. My cousin finally pulled me aside. "Can I ask you something?" "Sure. Are you okay with Ashley?" I frowned. "What do you mean?" He hesitated, then sighed. "She said you've been resentful lately." My chest tightened. Resentful of what? Her success. I stared at him. For several seconds I couldn't speak. Then I laughed. Not because it was funny, because I couldn't process it. Over the next hour I learnt she'd been repeating the same story to multiple relatives. Apparently I made passive-aggressive comments. Apparently I disliked hearing about her achievements. Apparently I struggled with comparisons. Apparently I wasn't supportive. I listened in disbelief. Supportive? I had literally funded part of her life for years, but nobody knew, because I'd promised not to tell anyone. That night I called her. "What are you doing?" "What?" "You know exactly what. I don't. You've been telling people I'm jealous of you." Long silence. Then, "I didn't say jealous. You absolutely did. I just said you've seemed distant. You told people I resent your success." Another silence. This one longer. Finally she spoke. "Maybe you do." I couldn't believe it. "What? You've changed. Ashley, you don't seem happy for me anymore." I nearly laughed again. Not because it was amusing, because the alternative was screaming. I wanted to remind her. Every rent payment, every sacrifice, every postponed vacation, every weekend I worked overtime, every transfer, every moment I chose her stability over my comfort. But I didn't. Instead, I asked one question. "When was the last time you thanked me?" Silence. Complete silence. And in that silence I found my answer. For weeks I wrestled with guilt. Anger, sadness, confusion. I kept asking myself if I was overreacting. Maybe she was stressed. Maybe she didn't mean it. Maybe family relationships were complicated. Then one evening I opened my banking app. A transfer scheduled for the next morning. $1,100. I stared at it, and suddenly I felt exhausted. Not financially. Emotionally, profoundly exhausted. I realised something painful. I wasn't helping my sister anymore. I was protecting an illusion. The next morning I cancelled the transfer. Then I called her. "I can't continue sending money." Her reaction was immediate. "What? I need to stop." "Why?" "Because you're telling people I'm jealous while secretly depending on me. Because you've forgotten what support looks like. Because this arrangement isn't healthy. Because I'm tired." I thought all those things. But what I said was simple. I can't do it anymore. At first she was angry, then offended, then desperate. The calls became frequent. The texts became emotional. I thought family helped family. The irony nearly knocked me over. Family helped family. Exactly, that was what I'd been doing for 3 years. The first cracks appeared quickly. Her apartment became too expensive. She downsized. Then came the car. Then the trip stopped. Then the designer purchases. Then the carefully curated social media presence slowed dramatically. No dramatic collapse. No public scandal. Just reality. Quiet reality. The kind that appears when subsidies disappear. Months later, relatives started asking questions. Didn't Ashley move? Is everything okay with her job? She seems different. I simply shrugged. It's been a tough year. I never exposed her. Never shared details, never revealed the transfers. Despite everything, I couldn't bring myself to humiliate her. Then came Thanksgiving. The moment neither of us expected. The family gathered around the table. Conversation drifted from work to housing costs to finances. Someone mentioned how expensive rent had become. Ashley sat quietly. Unusually quietly. Then my uncle said something. I always admired how Ashley managed to maintain that lifestyle. The room nodded, and suddenly Ashley spoke. No, everyone looked at her. She stared down at her plate. Then she said softly, I didn't maintain it. Silence filled the room. I had help. Nobody spoke. My heart started pounding. She looked up, straight at me, and for the first time in years I saw genuine humility. My sister helped me. The room remained frozen. Tears filled Ashley's eyes. Actually, she did more than help me. She swallowed hard. She carried me. Nobody knew what to say. Not even me. Ashley continued. For years she paid part of my rent. Gasps echoed around the table. I let people believe things that weren't true. Her voice cracked. I let people think I succeeded completely on my own. Then she looked directly at me. And I told people she was jealous. I could barely breathe. I'm sorry. 3 words. Simple, but real. Painfully real. After dinner she found me outside. Cold air drifted through the yard. For a while neither of us spoke. Then she said, I became addicted to the image. I nodded. I know. I started believing it myself. I nodded again. I know. Tears rolled down her cheeks. I don't know when gratitude turned into entitlement. That sentence hit harder than anything else she'd said, because it was honest. Brutally honest. And because it explained everything. We talked for hours. Not as rivals. Not as misunderstood sisters. Just 2 imperfect people. She admitted her mistakes. I admitted my silence had enabled them. Neither of us was completely innocent. But both of us were finally honest. Today, several years later, our relationship looks very different. Healthier, stronger, real. Ashley eventually rebuilt her life. This time on a foundation she could actually afford. Not an illusion. Not a performance. A real life. And strangely enough, that's when she became truly successful. Not when strangers admired her. Not when social media applauded. Not when family members envied her. But when she learned to stand on her own. Sometimes people still assume success is obvious, that the people who appear strongest got there alone. But I've learned something different. Behind many success stories stands someone invisible, someone sacrificing quietly, someone making transfers nobody sees, someone carrying burdens without recognition, someone choosing love over credit. The world celebrates what is visible. The apartment, the job title, the photographs, the lifestyle, but it rarely notices the unseen support holding everything together. I know, because for years I was that support, and while it hurt to be misunderstood, I don't regret helping my sister. What I regret is allowing the truth to disappear. Because support should never become a weapon. Generosity should never require recognition, but neither should it require erasure. The lesson took me years to learn. Helping someone is an act of love. Losing yourself while helping them is not. And sometimes the most loving thing you can do for them, and for yourself, is stop carrying a weight that was never meant to be yours forever. That was the year my sister's successful life fell apart, but it was also the year something far more valuable was rebuilt. The truth. And eventually, our relationship, both stronger than the illusion that came before.